In football, everyone involved is expected to always deliver good performances and results. When they don't, it's very easy to fall into a downward spiral and never bounce back. However, that isn't always the case, and sometimes we witness incredible comebacks that make us think twice if football isn't really a big movie. In this video, we'll be going through 10 inspirational stories of players and managers who, against all odds, recover their careers. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Number 10, Henrique Vidal. By 2011, the French international was a key player for Barcelona, and it was with great sadness that the football world received the news that he had to pause his career due to a liver cancer. Everyone hoped for the best, but we all knew it was a serious disease and it could end his career altogether. However, just 2 months later he made his triumphant return in the Champions League final and was the first man to lift the trophy after the match. Unfortunately, the surgery didn't fully fix his problem, and 1 year later he had to undergo a liver transplant. But against all odds, he made his return to a packed Camp Nou and wore the Blaugrana kit once again. Talk about never giving up. Number 9, Luis Suarez. Another Barca legend, but unlike Vidal, this man only has himself to blame for his time out of action. You see, back in the early 2010s, Suarez thought that being a vampire was as cool as being a Golden Boot winner, and decided to bite his opponents, not once, not twice, but 3 times. He got away with just a couple of matches out in the first 2 times, but his last bite on Chiellini cost him 4 months of his career. Suarez was suspended from all football-related activities, including training with his Barca teammates, but when he made his return in October 2014, it felt like he had never stopped playing in the first place. He went on to form an iconic trio with Messi and Neymar, won the Golden Boot, the Champions League, and cemented himself as arguably the best pure striker from the 2010s. And perhaps most importantly, he earned the fans' respect. Number 8, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. The year was 2018, Ibra had already sustained serious ligament damage in his right knee, and after he signed with LA Galaxy, most of us thought that was the end of Zlatan. Just 1 or 2 seasons and he would retire. But instead, he proved us all wrong, becoming an all-star in the MLS, only missing out on a title win. And when his contract ended, he returned to his former club AC Milan, hoping he could light the fire back in the Rossoneri and help them qualify to the Champions League. Well, not only did he qualify them to the Champions League, but he would also inspire the team to an incredible Serie A win in the next season. And the most impressive part of it all is that he achieved that feat at 40 years of age while playing with damaged knee ligaments. Number 7, José Mourinho. Before signing with Roma, Mourinho was on the back of a disappointing spell with Tottenham. He had also failed to win the Premier League with Manchester United, and his last spell in Stamford Bridge ended in the worst way possible, with the Blues in the mid-table. The man was almost pushed to retirement, but in 2022 he bounced back. Mourinho guided Roma to their first trophy win in 11 years, beating Feyenoord in the Conference League final, and in the next year went all the way to the Europa League final, however this time he was on the losing side. Nonetheless, those back-to-back finals certainly prove that Mourinho still has what it takes to be an elite manager in football, he just has to learn to say no to certain clubs. Number 6, Diego Forlán. Forlán, just like many other strikers, was once a promising player from a South American league. He would put up crazy numbers in his country, but when he arrived in the Premier League, everything changed. He couldn't score consistently for Man United and was consequently shown the door, and logically, everyone thought that was the end of another flop. Instead, he honed his craft at Villarreal, scored a lot of goals, gained confidence, and then moved to Atletico Madrid. A club that, at the time, lacked the stability that it has today and rarely qualified to European competitions, let alone the Champions League. But Forlán was determined to prove that he was better than what we saw during his days as a Red Devil, and alongside Sergio Agüero, carried Atletico to the Champions League for the first time in over a decade. He would also help the club win the Europa League, clinch another Golden Boot in the process, and finish the decade in style, leading an exciting Uruguay side to the World Cup semi-finals. Pretty good for just a flop. Number 5, Ricardo Quaresma. Another exciting winger from Sporting's youth system, Quaresma was more hyped than Ronaldo as a youngster, but due to his strong personality, he never adapted at Barcelona. He shined the brightest with FC Porto, and his first spell with the Dragons opened the door for bigger flights. He would leave his club for Inter in 2008, and would also have a spell with Chelsea, but just like it had happened previously, Quaresma failed to live up to the big expectations, and before he even turned 30, his career at the elite level was already over. Besides, at that point he didn't even have any standout moments with the Portuguese national team because he continuously clashed with managers due to his bench player role. But when Portugal hired Fernando Santos in 2014, every player who had problems with a former coach now had a clean slate. Quaresma, now a more mature player, took advantage of that and played his role to perfection, often coming on as a substitute when Portugal needed more creativity. And from 2016 to 2018, we witnessed a renaissance from the Portuguese winger, who was clutch against Poland and Croatia and one of the best players of the final. Then, in 2018, he finally realized his dream of playing in a World Cup and cemented his international legacy by scoring one of the best World Cup goals of all time. Number 4. Santi Cazorla. One of those the streets won't forget players, Cazorla was always a joy to watch. But following a nasty injury in his Achilles tendon in 2016, he looked like his career was over. This injury was no joke. It put him out of action for almost 2 years, and at one point, he was in serious risk of not being able to walk again or even losing the affected leg. But he never gave up. He went through 8 surgeries, and despite being released by Arsenal, Cazorla found a place in his former team Villarreal. While playing with the Yellow Submarines, the Spaniard proved his doubters wrong, becoming the highest scoring midfielders in the club history, which ultimately earned him a return to a Spanish national team at the age of 35. And as crazy as it seems, the guy is still going strong, having recently joined his youth club, Real Oviedo. Number 3. Claudio Ranieri. A coach past his prime and with way too many dismissals in his resume didn't look that attractive to Leicester City fans back in 2015. Many fans believed that it was only a miracle that kept the Foxes in the Premier League and that Ranieri would be the one to sink the ship. However, what we witnessed was a complete opposite, as a Tinkerman inspired his squad with Pisa and Kasabian to win the Premier League, a remarkable and unlikely feat that will go down in history as perhaps the greatest underdog story of all time. Of course, we all know that he got sacked in the next season, but the most important thing is that he managed to clear his image and become a wholesome figure in the world of football. Number 2. Jonas Gutierrez. A decent player for the Magpies and the Argentina national team, Jonas had the misfortune of suffering from testicular cancer. That illness derailed his career and limited his game time for 2 straight seasons, but he would have his big moment 2 years after the worst day of his life. In the last game of the 2014-2015 season, Newcastle needed a win to avoid being relegated, and Gutierrez single-handedly kept his club in the Prem, assisting the first goal and scoring the winner. To this day, it is still one of the most emotional Premier League moments of all time. And at number 1, Lionel Messi. When Messi left Barca in 2021, he failed to adapt to his new reality in France. He under-delivered compared to his own standards, and many people assumed that his best days were already behind him. But just a year later, during the 2022 World Cup, Messi proved once more why he is considered one of the greatest players of all time and helped Argentina win the World Cup for the 3rd time in their history. He scored in knockout rounds for the first time, and for many people, ended the GOAT conversation with his performance in the final. But what do you think? Is Messi the greatest player of all time? Leave more comeback stories in the comments, and let's start the discussion. Don't forget to leave a like if you want to watch more content like this, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the most interesting football discussions, news, and top 10 lists. As always, thank you for watching until the end, I appreciate you, and I will see you soon.